Mr. Senor. I'm going to talk to you guys about the irregular verbs this week. Dar, ir, hacer, y ver en el pretérito. If you could, just stop this video, save the Google slide file to your Google Drive, wherever you're keeping your notes for La Clase de Español, because you will certainly need these later on in the week. I don't expect you to see this once and memorize it by any stretch of the imagination. If you do, that is an impressive feat, and I applaud you. But that's not what my expectation is. So I highly recommend that you save this file to refer to later in the week. The preterite tense is a fancy grammar term for the past tense. We're going to be looking at los verbos irregulares for the next few weeks. They are irregular verbs in the preterite tense. You're going to note that these preterite tense verbs have pretty odd spelling patterns. In fact, many times they don't, when you conjugate them, they don't even look like the original verb anymore, which is why I think this is one of the toughest things that I teach, because there's so much to know, which is why I want to take it slow. We're only going to do between 4 and 5 verbs a week. However, my anticipation is that every week I'm going to take the old vocab list and then add to it. So I'll have all 4 of these terms with the stems written down, and then I'm going to add the next 4 and the next. So by the time we're done, we usually have 18 that I teach. I can probably narrow it down to 15 this year to try to keep things, again, just take the edge off a little bit. But the verbs that we're going to be focusing on are ser, to be, ir a, to go, ver, to see, dar, to give. Ser means to be. In the past tense, it is was or were in Spanish. Those are the 2 translations that we use for ser, to be, in the past tense. Our stem, ser, becomes fu, or not fu, fu. And it's really one of the greatest examples. If you look at ser, it looks nothing like these conjugations. That's what makes this very, very tricky, and it's going to take us some time to memorize these. But yo fui is I was, tú fuiste, you were, él fue, ella fue, she was, nosotros fuimos, we were, ellos fueron, they were. So I've put in red is the verb ending. Y, iste, y fueron. And you'll see later that these are not the regular verb endings. These are different from the irregular verb endings. And then we have fu is the fu is the stem. Now we have a little bit of a problema. Do you see it? I'll let you look again if you haven't seen it. Our issue here is it's the same word. To say was and went to is the same exact word. The only difference is that these conjugations will, if it's ir a, will have an a at the end of them. That's really one of the only ways you can tell if it's was or went to. Context can also help you. For example, it would not make sense to say I was McDonald's. That's very awkward. It makes more sense to say I went to McDonald's. So oftentimes, if you forget that fui a is I went to, if you read it to yourself and say, does was or went to make sense here? If it sounds funny with was, it probably is went, means went to. So the conjugations are yo fui a, I went to. Tú fuiste a, you went to. Él fue a, he went to. Nosotras fuimos a, we went to. And that's the feminine form. I'm just showing you it's the same conjugation, even if it's a group of girls. Ellas fueron a, they went to. Dar means to give, and sometimes we can use the word a after dar. Doesn't have to always be used. So dar a means to give to. In the past tense, it is gave. Yo di, I gave. Tú diste, you gave. Él dio, he gave. Nosotros dimos, we gave. Ellos dieron, they gave. I forgot to bring something up. there's a couple things here. First of all, this verb is irregular because it's an AR verb, but it has ER, IR endings. But I want to point this out, and I forgot to put this in. In fact, I'm going to do that right now before I even do anything else. So many variations. Preterite tense have odd spelling patterns. Also, they do not require. Also, let's see. I want to say preterite irregular verbs do not require accents. No accents on irregular verbs in the preterite tense, which is very different from what we're used to because we're used to the yo and the L form having the accento. Yeah, no acento. Okay, just want to make sure. I'm glad I did this because now I remember to put that in. That's really important because if not, it is technically spelled wrong. You're not saying anything different. It's just spelled wrong. Ver means to see. So the past tense of see is saw. Yo vi, I saw. Tu viste, you saw. Ella vio, she saw. Nosotras vimos, we saw. Ellas vieron, they saw. You'll notice the verb endings are the same as dar. The reason I teach these verbs together is ser and ir, these two verbs, yeah, they're the same conjugations. So I teach those two together. These two, dar and ver, there's literally one letter difference between the two. So I teach them together because they're so similar. And I want you to know the difference between them. So I teach them together to compare them to one another. If you have any questions on this, please do not hesitate to email me at gmakowski@nwcs.org.